Tribal and peasant uprisings. Tribal uprisings causes colonial rule ended their relative isolation and brought them fully within ambit of the colonialism. Recognized tribal chief as zamindars and introduced a new land revenue and taxation of tribal products. Influx of large number of Dikus, moneylenders, traders, and revenue farmers as middlemen amongst tribals. Land alienation of tribals reduced to status of sharecroppers, laborers, radically altered relations with forest, assert, assert, forest land placed restriction on access to forest product, stopped practices of zoom cultivation. Characteristics of tribal rebellions. Tribal identity. Ethnic ties were a basic feature of tribal rebellions. Second, religious leadership. Messiahs provided leadership to rebellions, promised divine intervention and to suffering at hands of outsiders. Third, militant but unequal battle. The tribal rebellions were violent but were pitted against better trained and equipped British armed forces. Fourth is localized nature of revolts. Then tribal uprisings, Coals of Chota Nagpur between 1820 and 1837, 17 years. Then Santhal uprisings of Rajmahal Hills. Santhal uprising of Rajmahal Hills, 1854 to 1866. Sidho and Kanhu. Nearly 60,000 Santhals had been mobilized. Rebellions were crushed. More than 15,000 Santhals were killed. Third Munda uprising, 1899 to 1900, by Birsa Munda. They had been struggling against the restriction of their common land holding system. Peasant revolts in pre-1857 era. From 1763 to 1856, there were more than 40 major rebellions. First Sannyasi Rebellion, Bankim Chand Chatterjee, Anand Math, 1763 to 1800, displaced peasants and mobilized soldiers of Bengal led by rebellious monks and disposed zamindars. Second, South Indian Dewan Velu Thampi of Travancore organized a historical revolt in 1803 to 1805. Then Third Western India Koli uprising in Gujarat during 1830s and Bhil uprising in Maharashtra. Peasant movements after 1857. First Indigo revolt 1856 to 1860. The indigo planters, nearly all Europeans, compelled the tenants to grow indigo, which they processed in factories. In practice, planters were above the law. Magistrates, mostly Europeans, favored the planters, led by the Vishnu Biswas and Digambar Biswas. Rebellious riots organized rent strikes and raised funds to fight court cases against planters. Role of intelligentsia, organized as powerful campaign in support of rebellious peasantry. Then Harish Chandra Mukherjee, editor, Hindu patriot, and Deen Bandhu Mitra, play Neel Darpan. Pabna Agrarian Revolt, 1870 to 1880s, 10 years tenure. Pabna Agrarian Revolt. In 1850s, in 1873, an agrarian league was formed in Pabna, East Bengal to resist the demand of Jamidars. Illegal demand for rent beyond legal limits and to prevent the tenants from acquiring occupancy rights under Act 10 of the 1859. The league organized rent strikes and challenged the jamidars in courts. The main form of struggle was legal resistance. The movement organized the movement argued for reinforcement of legal rights and neither and overthrow of Jamidari or the colonial rulers. Consequently, Bengal Tenancy Act of 1885 was passed. Then Agrarian Revolt, Deccan Agrarian Revolts, not Revolt, Deccan Agrarian Revolts, 1875 to 1879. Major agrarian outbreak happens in Pune, Ahmednagar in 1875. Cause the increase in land revenue demands in 1867 by 50%, worsened by bad harvests and the crash in cotton export prices due to the end of the American Civil War in 1864. Strategy: there was social boycott of the Jamidars and moneylenders, where they resorted to forced evictions of peasants. This social boycott soon transformed into agrarian revolting agrarian riots. When it did not prove effective. Colonial government represent movement. Deccan Agriculturist Relief Act of 1879 was passed. 1873 and 74. Pune Sarvajanik Sabha led by the Justice Ranade organized successful campaign amongst peasants. Features of peasant movements. Their struggle was directed towards specific, limited, and objectives and redressal of the specific grievances. Their struggle were directed against immediate enemies, foreign planters, indigenous Jamidars, and moneylenders. The intelligentsia played a critical role in strengthening the movement, adopted constitutionalist mode rather than relying on violent mobilization. They developed a strong awareness of their legal rights. Fifth, the territorial reach of these movements was also limited. Six, a major weakness of the 19th century peasant movements was a lack of adequate understanding of colonialism economic structure. Seventh, their movement lacked a positive conception of an alternative society. Eighth, most of these weaknesses were overcome in 20th century, where peasant discontent merged with wider anti-imperialist discontent and movement. Final and the chapters.